Hi everybody! Since everyone's social distancing and salons are closed, I thought that I would make this video so that people might have some idea how to cut hair. I'm no way an expert, disclaimer. However, I have been cutting my husband's hair for about 5 years and my children since they were born, so I just thought I'd give it a go and see if I could be helpful to anybody. So here's what we have. This is my lovely model David. And we're going to be using some wall clippers. We got these on Amazon for like $30. If they're still available, they're great. If not, you could do a whole haircut with just scissors. It'll just take a lot longer. But these are just simple wall clippers. They have little guards that snap on and off in different lengths. So we have those. You need a comb and a pair of scissors. These are specifically hair cutting scissors. However, if you don't have these, you could use any kind of like pointed scissor like this. They could be paper cutting scissors, whatever, but the sharper they are, the better. So if you've got a pair of fabric scissors that you want to sacrifice to hair, now would be the time because they'll work really well. Anything that's really sharp. And ideally a pair of hair cutting scissors because they're sharper. And then I have some extra guards. So these are just going to go on the clippers. They're in different lengths. And if you need them, I also have some different clips just for clipping parts of the hair back as we go. If it's short hair, you probably don't need that too much. For longer hair, those help a lot. And maybe a rubber band as well for longer hair. I also have a hair cutting cape. Because like I said, I've been doing this for a while. You don't need this, it just helps get the hair off the person. You could also use like a towel and use one of those little clips and just clip it on that way. Or, you know, just wash your clothes, they'll just be covered in hair, not a big deal. So, I'm gonna make my husband blind. What the haircut is we're doing here is shorter on the sides, longer on the top. He usually puts a good bit of hair product in this and kind of has it more up. So I'm going to cut it in a way that works for that product well. And then, like I said, shorter on the sides, we'll trim around the ears, and we'll also trim around the back of the neck to clean up the neckline. So that's our plan for today. What I would suggest is if you look at it when it's long, you'll see where the natural hairline is. Typically that's a really good spot to be able to say this is short, this is long. You'll get a really good line along there and it's an easy like line to follow. And I'm going to leave it longest about here and then kind of trim this up to be shorter around the crown of the head and fade it into the back. So I'm going to be doing this part with clippers, this part with scissors. So essentially you're kind of thinking of it like a mohawk up here, although it won't really look that way when we're done. So we'll get started with clippers. This is a number 3 guard that I have on here. You're going to start from the bottom like this, and you're just thinking of this kind of like a comb. You want to go kind of slow because it will pull the hair if you go fast. And when you get a big pile, you can kind of throw it off. So you're just coming up the hair and just following along his head, pushing with just a little bit of pressure on his head, and I'm just coming up and letting the clippers do what they need to do. As I come off of his head, I'm kind of lifting it up as I go. I'm not sure if you can see that, but just kind of like lifting up, and that'll help give us some of the fade we need as well. So like I said, if you look at his hairline, kind of starts about here is the furthest back, so we're going to kind of go in a line from there. Another important thing to remember is it's always better to take away less because you can always take away more. Once it's gone, you can't put it back. So especially if you're not good at this, you know, do it a little longer than you think you want it to be. See how it looks and then trim it down. So we're just going to go all over. Sometimes it helps too to go different directions, get it all evened out. But we're just going to get all of this. And like I said, right on that line is usually a good place to go. kind of holding this hair out and trimming it a little. This will help to fade it in easier later, but I'm leaving kind of part of this crown. I'm not coming like up to a blunt line with the trimmers. Oh, sorry. So we're just trimming along. This would take a lot more time to do it this short if you only had scissors, but you can do it. Or my recommendation would be, don't go this short, just do a slightly longer haircut on the sides so that it's not as hard to get even or looks looks uneven when you're done because of the scissor lines. So the clippers do a really good job of just taking it all off at a really short length. But I've heard that clippers are apparently in short supply, so if you can't find them, that's okay too. And again, I'm just gonna find where his hair kind of goes back to his hairline here and pick a line, and we're just kind of gonna follow across that line. Usually people's hair won't grow exactly the same on both sides, so don't be afraid if one side looks a little different than the other. You're just trying to get it as even as you can. Usually this side for his hair has a better line than this side. This side's a little more blended in, and it's also got like a cowlick in the front that always makes the front difficult. But you just do your best to make it even. If you can see here, if you pull the ear back a little bit, you can get around the ear easier. And we're just trimming this side up. So as you can see, I'm just kind of picking these pieces up from the crown and just trimming them a little, but out here instead of in against his head, so it just holds some tension and run it through the clippers. And that's helping already to get this area faded in a little bit versus having that be tall and like floppy and having to figure it out like we'll have to do here. So this is just kind of fading in that back area. And you could also, if this intimidates you to just hold the hair and try to pick the right length, you could also just switch out the guard to be longer and longer and longer guards as you fade it out, and it would do the same thing. I just found that takes a lot of time, and this way you can kind of control like each individual area of hair that you're cutting. Okay, so then we're going to take the guard off completely. And we're going to square up all around the neck and the back. Can you turn to the left? Okay, so then as you can see, we've got a lot of hair on the neck and also around the ears here. So we're going to try to trim all of that up and square it off. Different guys have different preferences on how high or low it goes. Usually I feel like wherever it kind of like stops but you can get a straight line across is a good spot. And same thing when you're going here, I just kind of follow like this part where there's no hair to hair and then just follow a line down to get a nice square line. So we're just going to turn clippers on, and here you're going to go at this from a different angle rather than like this, like we were cutting the hair. You're going to do it like this at a straight line. So I'm going to pick a spot that's in a good line and turn this way just a little bit. I'm going to pick a spot and I'm just going to go straight in and then down. And so then that straightened out all of the hair there. And same thing, I'm going to try to follow along that line and go down. If you really mess up the line, you're going to have to just go higher because at this point you're going nearly down to skin. So if you get one side too high or something, you can just go a little higher. So again, if you If you start with less than you think that you want and then take away more, that's better because you can't put the hair back. So now we've got a nice straight line across the bottom, and then we're going to do the sides. So again, I kind of move the ear back and see this line and just kind of follow along that. So get a nice square line like that. And do the same thing on this side. And we'll just move the ear back. Move the ear back and do a nice continuation of that angle around the ear. Okay, and I think that looks pretty good. Sometimes if this still seems like a little hairy here, now you could go in and do your clippers this direction and trim up a little hair if you needed to. But that's how you just square that part off. And that should be all we need to do with the clippers. And then we're just going to start doing the scissors. So we'll start with the ears. Right now, you'll see there's some areas right around the ear that's a little bit long. So we're just going to move the ear out of the way. Try not to Picasso that off. And we're just going to trim these little hairs. Another thing you could do to extend your haircuts is just trim the ears, square off the back of the neck, and leave the rest, but it'll look like you just meant for it to be a longer haircut on purpose, which will help so that you don't have to do this as often too. We turn around. Yeah. Okay, so now we've trimmed the back. The back's nice and done, and around the ears is done. So essentially we're done up to here. And then we're just gonna do whatever we want with this part. So it depends, you know, you can leave this really long, you could do it shorter. It's a pretty popular, simple hairstyle. So right now, it's really long, but you have to think if there's gonna be product in this hair, it's gonna like shorten it up a lot. So it just kind of depends. What I do is I just kind of go crazy with the scissors, and I don't have a really specific, everything's exactly the same length type of approach. So I usually would start kind of in the front. And the other good thing too is once you have a hairstyle, you could take everything and cut off exactly the same amount of hair everywhere, and you should get that same style shorter again. So it's easier if you do it more often, so you can still kind of see the shape. This is a little extra long, so we're going to take off a good bit. But we're just going to take some hair and hold it between your fingers like this, or you can do it between a comb like this and just straighten it out, and then the comb will hold the hair. And then you're just going to go along with your scissors, and you don't want to do just one big long straight cut because that'll end up looking really jagged. What you want is to do tiny little snips at an angle, so kind of like you're creating triangles in a line. So we'll get some hair like this, and we're just going to go little triangles, snip, 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 like this, all the way across a line. And so what that does is then when the hair moves, you don't end up with then the line looking crooked versus just the whole thing having some texture and shape to it. If the person whose hair you're cutting is more wavy or curly, I would recommend getting it wet first so that it's straighter, so that you can see the shape a little better, and then cut it. But if it's pretty straight hair, then I would cut it dry because you can see the shape of it better, and you can also understand like what the length is that you're going to end up with when you're done. So I'm just kind of deciding how long I want the front to be, and I'm just taking some pieces and just doing those little triangle snips all the way along. This is what you'd do if you were cutting the whole head as well. If you were going to leave this and just do the whole thing, is you just try to do these tiny little snips all over. It does take a lot longer, but it ends up looking much less choppy when you're done. So as you can see, like I'm pulling back parts of the hair. So this side right now is a lot shorter than this side. So I'm just going to take a little more of this and say I want this a little bit shorter. And do a lot of tiny little cuts until it starts to look even. So now the front's looking pretty even. And then we're just going to continue on with that. And what we're going to do here is, like I said, you're kind of thinking of this top part as if it's different than the rest of the hair and almost like it's a mohawk in this style. So like I could hold it all up like this in a mohawk, and I can trim the whole top of it like this. Same thing, doing our little triangle cuts. And it'll all start kind of taking shape. And you can keep trimming at it for as long as you want until you think it looks good or it gets too short to trim anymore. So what I like is this part kind of like crown and a little forward, this to be the longest, so that it gets a little extra body when there's some product put in there. And then kind of this part a little bit shorter than this, and then this part a little shorter too. You don't, in a style like this, want your bang part to be too short, because then it's not going to do anything. Like it'll have no style and won't hold a shape. So I'm just continually grabbing pieces of hair, holding it between my fingers, and doing our little triangle cuts. I'm sure hairstylists everywhere would judge all of my techniques, and that's why they're professionals and get paid. But I've been doing this for a while and it seems to work for me. Obviously, everyone's going to have different hairstyles and different hair types, and all of that's going to affect everything.
Sorry, I'm falling asleep.
My model is falling asleep. I'm so boring.
No, it's just like,
My voice is so soothing.
sad. Because it's like, my eyes are closed and I'm there, and it's just sitting. And I have a large amount of trust that you're going to do it right, so.
That's taken a lot of time to build. And also, we live in a house with 2 small children, so any moment that there is to sit still equals falling asleep. So here, I'm just kind of, here's our line that we did here, and I'm just trying to make this hair fade into this so that it's not a blunt line. Some people's haircut, I've noticed, has like more of a blunt line between the shorter and longer. So you could do that too if you want. The first time I did this, I definitely wasn't as good at it, and then it's taken time, and now I kind of like know what I'm doing as I jump in. So definitely don't expect that you're not gonna be like, well, I didn't really like how that turned out. Next time I'm gonna try a little different. But so as you can see now, we're starting to get a little more of a fade from the short to the longer hair on top. So I'm just picking some pieces back here and I'm holding them up and just trying to get a nice fade from the short to the long. I don't have to do as much back here because I already kind of did it with the clippers. So now this side, this is the side that we haven't trimmed at all. This is the side that we have, so this side's nice and faded in. And then when you put some product in his hair, this part will all come up, and then this part is not. So you can see there's a lot of hair right here versus like the very short hair on the other side fading in. So now we're just going to do kind of the same thing to this side. You could also, I did like the mohawk in the middle this way and trimmed it. You could also do hair this way and go short here to a longer line out here. And if you start like getting this angle, then that will do kind of the same thing, is you'll have longer hair here and shorter hair here, and you can kind of fade it in. So it just depends, like there's no super right way that I know of. It's just whatever gives you the right shape when you're done for this part. It's not like typically with girls' hair you kind of do like layers and they'll do the layers up, but this is just kind of, I keep moving it around, seeing what's long, seeing what's laying right, thinking about how it's gonna lay once there's stuff in it, and just like, oh, this is long right here and this isn't, so let's just come here and, you know, do our little triangles and trim this side. Now getting that side pretty faded in. This is a little long right here, so I'll take a little more from here. I usually do haircuts about every 1 to 2 months. 1 is better because you still have more of the original shape to work off of, so you don't have quite as much. This is probably closer to 2 months of growth that I'm cutting off, but obviously that depends too on everybody's hair growth. Some people's hair grows really slow, some goes really fast, but you can, like I said, definitely you could do the 1 month cut, and then you could just trim up the ears and around the back of the neck and use that as month 2, and then month 3 you can go back to having to do the whole thing over again. A little more down here on the ear in this. So now it's pretty much done. So you can see we're pretty short here. We've got hair up top that he can put product in and have a little more body to it, or it could stay just like it is as well. Got a little shape. The bottoms are shorter hair, and it's all trimmed around the edges. So that's about it. And then just clean off all the hair, shower. There'll be hair everywhere, so definitely make sure you sweep it up and shower and all that stuff, because you'll track it all over your house. But that's about all there is to it. If you have any questions, let me know.
Thanks for the haircut.
Thanks for being my mom. Thanks.